14 mountains rise above 8,000 meters, but among them, some claim as many as one life for every 3 who reach their summit. Even Everest, crowded with climbers, has left more than 300 bodies in its shadow. The least deadly of these giants sits entirely in the death zone, where the human body cannot survive for long. Why do the risks and the fatality rates climb so sharply from mountain to mountain, and what makes some of these peaks far deadlier than others? To answer that, we need to trace the real ladder of escalating danger these giants present. Cho Oyu stands at 8,188 meters on the Nepal and Tibet border, its broad slopes rising quietly into the death zone. Over 3,600 climbers have reached its summit, yet the fatality rate remains near 1%, the lowest among all 8,000-meter peaks. Guides often describe Cho Oyu as the most accessible of the giants, with its gradual northwest ridge and relatively straightforward glacier crossings. But even here, above 8,000 meters, the body begins a slow, irreversible decline. Exhaustion, sudden storms, and hidden crevasses have claimed dozens of lives, reminding climbers that no summit is truly safe. Just a few valleys away, the risk profile changes completely. Everest, towering at 8,849 meters, draws more climbers than any other high peak. The numbers are stark, more than 10,000 summits, but at least 330 deaths recorded in its shadow. The main south side route funnels climbers through the Khumbu Icefall, across the western Khum, and up the steep Lhotse face, a single corridor shared with neighboring Lhotse until the routes divide near the Yellow Band. This shared approach compresses hundreds of climbers and workers into a narrow vertical bottleneck every spring. On Everest, crowding creates new dangers. Permit limits and the rise of commercial guiding have packed summit attempts into short weather windows, forcing long lines at critical points like the Hillary Step. In May 2019, more than 220 climbers waited on the upper ridge in a single day. Hours spent standing at nearly 8,800 meters, where oxygen deprivation clouds, judgment, have turned minor delays into fatal outcomes. Many Everest deaths are tied not just to altitude or storms, but to the sheer density of people above the South Core. The Sherpa community faces the greatest exposure. While foreign climbers may cross the Khumbu Icefall a handful of times, Sherpa workers often make a dozen or more trips, hauling loads and fixing ropes before most clients arrive. The 2014 Sarak collapse in the icefall killed 16 Nepali workers in a single morning, a stark reminder that risk is not shared equally. Lhotse, at 8,516 meters, branches off from Everest's route into a steep, icy couloir. Its summit statistics are lower, but the technical challenge rises sharply in the upper gully, where hard ice and rockfall demand precision and nerve. From Cho Oyu's steady slopes to Everest's crowded corridors, the lower end of the 8,000-meter spectrum reveals how crowding, commercialization, and invisible labor add lethal complexity to the death zone. Gasherbrum 2, at 8,035 meters, is often called the most accessible of the Karakoram giants. For many, it is the entry point into the world of the 8,000ers, not because it is safe, but because the costs are lower and the technical challenges are less severe than its neighbors. Pakistan's government permit fees for Gasherbrum 2 are a fraction of Nepal's Everest royalties, and full-service expeditions hover around $15,000 to $25,000 US, less than half the price of a guided Everest climb. Yet affordability comes with its own risks. The standard route crosses long broken glaciers riddled with hidden crevasses. In the early season, snow bridges can collapse underfoot, swallowing climbers in a moment. High on the mountain, avalanche-prone slopes demand constant vigilance, especially after fresh snowfall. And the Karakoram's weather is infamous. Clear skies can vanish into whiteout within hours, trapping teams above camp with no warning. Beyond Gasherbrum 2, the mid-tier 8,000ers each present a distinct hazard. Broad Peak's defining feature is its summit ridge, a narrow, exposed knife edge that stretches for nearly 2 kilometers at extreme altitude. Climbers spend hours traversing this ridge, with cornices breaking away beneath their feet and storms erasing tracks in minutes. Manaslu, often marketed as a training 8,000er, is notorious for avalanches. The upper camps and summit slopes sit directly in the path of massive snowslides. In 2012, a single avalanche above Camp 3 killed 11 climbers overnight. Makalu, the world's 5th highest, rises as a steep pyramid of rock and ice. The upper routes demand technical mixed climbing, front pointing on bullet-hard ice, delicate moves on exposed rock, and no margin for error at over 8,400 meters. Shisha Pangma, the lowest of the 8,000ers at 8,027 meters, stands isolated on the Tibetan Plateau. Its summit slopes are battered by relentless jet stream winds. Expeditions face sudden gusts that can flatten tents and build unstable wind slabs, with rescue options limited by the mountain's remoteness. Gasherbrum 1, also called Hidden Peak, is steeper and more technical than its sibling Gasherbrum 2. The Japanese couloir and the upper pyramid are infamous for fatal falls and storms that have pinned teams high on the mountain. Dhaulagiri, 7th highest at 8,167 meters, has a legacy of avalanche and storm deaths. Its massive bulk creates its own weather, drawing in storms that load steep faces with snow and trigger avalanches without warning. Across these peaks, the numbers tell a sobering story. Fatality rates climb as objective hazards multiply. Crevasses and whiteouts on Gasherbrum 2, exposed ridges on Broad Peak, avalanches on Manaslu and Dhaulagiri, technical faces on Makalu and Gasherbrum 1, and isolation on Shisha Pangma. Each mountain's unique threat shapes who survives and who is lost. For climbers, the decision to attempt a mid-tier 8,000er is never just about skill or budget. It is a calculation against the unpredictable forces that rule the high Himalaya and Karakoram. Never forget, the mountains always have the final word. Kangchenjunga rises to 8,586 meters on the border of Nepal and India, wrapped in cloud and legend. Unlike the more trafficked giants to the west, its approach cuts through days of dense forest and remote valleys, far from major roads or rescue infrastructure. When trouble strikes high on Kangchenjunga, help is measured in days, not hours. This remoteness alone transforms every decision into a gamble. A twisted ankle at base camp can escalate, and a storm above 8,000 meters often leaves teams on their own. The mountain's fatality rate speaks for itself. Historically, nearly 1 climber has died for every 5 or 6 who reached its upper slopes. Yet danger here is not just a matter of distance or weather. For generations, Kangchenjunga has been revered as sacred by the Limbu, Kirati, and Sikamize communities, believed to be the dwelling of powerful deities. In 1955, the first summit party famously stopped a few steps short of the highest point, honoring a promise to local leaders that the summit itself would remain untouched. Some modern expeditions still pause just below the top, offering a silent gesture of respect before turning back. Others continue to the true summit, but the story of restraint endures. It is a rare tradition where human ambition yields to something greater than the mountain's physical challenge. On Kangchenjunga, the weight of remoteness and the pull of sacred limits combine. Every ascent is shadowed by the knowledge that survival depends on self-reliance, and that the summit may not be a place to stand, but a line to honor. The mountain's high fatality rate is shaped by more than avalanches and storms. It is also defined by the boundaries set by those who have lived in its shadow for centuries. Nanga Parbat's Rupal face rises 4,500 meters from the valley floor, a sheer wall of ice and rock that dwarfs anything else in the Himalaya. Avalanches roar down its slopes with little warning. In 1953, Hermann Buell attempted the summit alone, pushing through the night without oxygen, perched on a ledge at 8,000 meters. He survived, but the mountain's toll grew. More than 80 climbers have died for just 400 summits, a fatality rate near 1 in 5. K2, at 8,611 meters, offers no mercy. Every route is steep and exposed, but the bottleneck, a narrow passage at 8,200 meters beneath unstable seracs, defines its reputation. In 2008, a serac collapsed above the bottleneck, cutting fixed ropes and trapping teams high on the mountain. 11 climbers died that night, unable to escape the chaos. K2's fatality rate has hovered around 25%, far higher than Everest. Annapurna Wurns, 8,091 meters, is notorious for avalanches and shifting glaciers. Its north face is a maze of unstable snowfields. About 1 in 3 climbers who reach the summit never return. The 1950 French expedition, led by Maurice Herzog, reached the top, but Herzog and Louis Lachenal lost most of their fingers and toes to frostbite. Annapurna's death rate, close to 30%, stands unmatched. Measured by fatality rate and objective hazard, K2 and Annapurna. I remain the deadliest. Here, ambition meets the highest cost. The numbers tell a story written in loss and survival. Despite modern gear and training, fatality rates on peaks like K2 and Annapurna still exceed 20%. Today, more climbers than ever attempt these giants. But nature's upper limits remain absolute, reminding us that ambition does not conquer altitude. Survival at 8,000 meters is never guaranteed. Share your thoughts below.